The women's 1,500 meters final delivered everything that makes championship middle distance racing unforgettable. This was not a race built on pure pace from the gun. It was a psychological contest, a tactical chess match, and eventually an all-out physical collapse into one of the most dramatic finishes the event has seen in recent years. Every athlete entered the track knowing that the margins between victory and defeat would be microscopic, and that reality shaped the race from the very first stride. The opening phase immediately revealed the intentions of the field. Nobody wanted to become the sacrificial leader. In championship racing, especially in the 1,500 meters, leading too early can destroy an athlete before the decisive moment even arrives. The runners understood that if they wasted energy controlling the pace in the first half, they could pay for it brutally during the final 300 meters. Because of that, the race opened cautiously, almost deceptively calm. But beneath that calmness, there was constant tension. The athletes remained packed tightly together, shoulder to shoulder, each one trying to secure ideal positioning without spending unnecessary energy. That is one of the most difficult aspects of elite 1,500-meter racing, and something casual viewers often underestimate. At this level, positioning is almost as important as fitness. A runner trapped too far back risks getting boxed in when the acceleration begins. A runner stuck on the outside covers extra distance around every curve. A runner leading too early becomes a target for everyone else. The slow opening laps created uncertainty across the field. Every athlete had to make continuous decisions in real time. Should they move forward now or stay patient? Should they protect the rail or move outside for freedom? Should they react to small surges or ignore them? The mental pressure was enormous because tactical races punish hesitation as much as they punish recklessness. What made this final so fascinating was the lack of a single dominant controller. In many championship races, one athlete eventually decides to increase the pace gradually and stretch the field before the sprint finish. That never truly happened here during the early stages. Instead, the rhythm kept fluctuating. Tiny surges appeared and disappeared almost instantly. Athletes tested each other psychologically rather than physically. One runner would edge forward, another would respond immediately, and then the pace would settle again. Nobody wanted to reveal their full strength too soon. This kind of race creates massive physical consequences later because the athletes spend so much energy braking, accelerating, and fighting for space. Even when the pace appears moderate on television, the constant positional battles drain the legs. The runners are never truly relaxed. They are changing gears repeatedly while staying alert to avoid collisions and tactical traps. As the middle laps unfolded, the importance of experience became obvious. The most composed athletes avoided panic despite the crowded conditions. They understood that survival during the tactical phase would determine whether they could compete for medals in the closing lap. Younger or less experienced runners often make the mistake of forcing moves too early in races like this because they fear getting trapped. That usually leads to premature fatigue. The smartest athletes conserve emotional energy as much as physical energy. The race truly began to transform, with roughly 500 meters remaining. The body language changed immediately. The relaxed control vanished. Elbows widened slightly. Cadence increased. Athletes who had hidden comfortably within the pack suddenly started hunting for lanes. Everyone understood that the window for victory was opening rapidly and would disappear within seconds. At this stage, the field compressed even tighter before exploding apart. That compression is one of the defining characteristics of tactical 1,500-meter racing. Because the pace had remained controlled for so long, almost every athlete still believed they could win. Instead of 3 or 4 contenders remaining, the entire group stayed connected deep into the race. That dramatically increased the chaos once the acceleration finally arrived. The bell lap completely changed the atmosphere. The sound of the bell acted like a trigger for pure instinct. Suddenly, the measured patience of the earlier laps disappeared, and the race became violent in speed and intensity. Athletes launched aggressive moves on both the inside and outside lanes. The field stretched instantly after remaining compact for so long. What had looked controlled seconds earlier now looked desperate. One of the most impressive aspects of the final lap was the ability of the leaders to accelerate after such a tactical opening. Championship 1,500-meter racing requires athletes to possess two completely different skill sets simultaneously. They need the aerobic strength to survive the overall distance and the sprinting ability to unleash devastating speed after already running at high intensity. That combination is incredibly rare. The frontrunners demonstrated remarkable efficiency entering the final 300 meters. Their form remained composed despite the pressure. Knees stayed high, arm drive stayed compact, and they resisted the temptation to tighten emotionally. Athletes who panic in the final sprint often waste movement and lose momentum. The best middle-distance runners maintain technical discipline even while operating near complete exhaustion. Behind them, the battle for positioning became even more brutal. Small mistakes carried massive consequences. One runner drifted slightly wide entering the curve and immediately lost precious ground. Another hesitated for a fraction of a second before committing to a gap and nearly got trapped. In a finish this close, those tiny moments matter enormously. Fans often focus only on the final meters, but the real separation frequently happens through decisions made 150 meters earlier. The final straight produced pure chaos. The leaders entered almost together, each athlete believing victory was still possible. The crowd reacted instantly because nobody could clearly identify a winner. Stride patterns changed dramatically as fatigue exploded through the field. Some athletes relied on cadence, rapidly turning over their legs. Others used longer, more powerful strides. Faces tightened, arms pumped harder, bodies leaned desperately toward the line. What made the finish unforgettable was the complete absence of separation. Instead of one athlete breaking away decisively, several competitors arrived at the finish almost simultaneously. The margins became microscopic. It transformed from a race into a raw fight for centimeters. This is where championship mentality matters most. In those final seconds, physical preparation alone is not enough. Athletes must override the body's instinct to slow down. Every muscle is screaming to stop. Lactate floods the legs. Coordination begins to disappear. Vision narrows. Yet the best competitors somehow find another acceleration despite already reaching exhaustion. The finish immediately sparked reactions because it looked almost unreal in real time. Spectators replayed the moment repeatedly, trying to understand how multiple athletes could arrive together with such tiny margins separating them. These are the moments that elevate athletics beyond statistics. Fans remember races like this emotionally because the drama feels almost impossible to script. Technically, the race also demonstrated why the women's 1,500 meters has evolved into one of the deepest and most competitive events in global athletics. The standard is now extraordinarily high. Athletes are no longer relying purely on endurance. Modern championship racing demands tactical intelligence, elite biomechanics, closing speed, emotional control, and adaptability under pressure. Another important aspect of this final was the psychological resilience shown by the athletes during the slow early pace. Tactical races often create panic internally because runners know that one mistimed move can ruin months or years of preparation. The ability to remain calm while waiting for the decisive moment separates champions from talented runners. The pacing structure also made the race physically deceptive. Because the opening laps were conservative, the final lap became exceptionally fast relative to the earlier pace. That creates enormous stress on the body because athletes transition suddenly from controlled aerobic rhythm into near maximal sprinting. The change feels violent physically. Runners who cannot shift gears instantly are eliminated almost immediately once the acceleration begins. This final also highlighted the brutal honesty of middle-distance racing. There is nowhere to hide during the closing stages. Tactics can help place an athlete in contention, but eventually the race demands complete commitment. In the final 100 meters, every runner had to confront their limits directly. Some managed to sustain form under fatigue, while others visibly tightened. Those differences decided the outcome. The emotional impact of races like this extends far beyond the finish line because they capture the essence of athletics itself. No equipment advantage can decide the result. No strategy can completely protect an athlete from suffering. Eventually, the race becomes a direct confrontation between preparation, courage, timing, and pain tolerance. The women's 1,500 meters final proved once again why championship racing remains so compelling, even in an era obsessed with times and records. Fast times matter, but dramatic competition creates unforgettable moments. This race had uncertainty, tactical complexity, emotional swings, and a finish that forced everyone watching to stay frozen until the official results appeared. Long after the exact splits are forgotten, people will remember the feeling this race created. They will remember the tension of the early laps, the explosion of the bell lap, and the unbelievable sprint to the line. They will remember how nobody wanted to surrender even a single centimeter. Most importantly, they will remember how this final captured everything beautiful and brutal about elite athletics. This was not simply a 1,500-meter race. It was a demonstration of survival, intelligence, courage, and competitive instinct under maximum pressure. A final decided by fractions of a second, yet built through years of preparation. A race that reminded everyone watching exactly why middle-distance running continues to produce some of the greatest moments in sport.